All right, you're welcome back. We're going to be switching our conversation now to something that's very, very important as far as I'm concerned. We've been seeing reports recently about how Nigeria is going to overtake the United States as the third most populous country in the world by 2050. I think we're going to have a population of around 400 or 450 million at that time. And for a lot of people, that could be a good or bad thing. I mean, numbers are a great thing. You could become a huge human resource for the country, and Nigeria becomes this amazing giant. Or, with those numbers, without proper growth, it's a disaster waiting to happen. I have here with me Dr. Titilola Dura, a health analyst, to help me talk to this. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having
me. There's a conference coming up with the World Health Organization, the UK government, the United Nations Food Population, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And family planning is, for a long while in Nigeria, it's been a conversation going on, but it becomes a campaign for like a year and everybody keeps quiet. And it's time to talk about it, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. In 2012, this program that we're talking about happened in London. It was called the Family Planning Summit, and it brought together governments, it brought together the UN, donor organizations, civil societies to speak about family planning, to put it on a higher agenda, so to speak, to say that, look, the way we're heading in the world is, like you said, a disaster in the making. Let's do something about it. And because of that, everybody came together to say, we need to do something, we need to improve access to family planning. For the entire population.
Just to let the viewers know, we're also joined in Abuja by Ustaz Bashir Mundi. I'll be coming to you with a few questions now, just when she lands her point. So please just hang in there. So go on.
Yes, to say this is important, we need to do something about it. And not just for the entire population, but also for young people. Because if we don't do something about this critical mass of people, this demographic, then we will be having a lot of young people, and at the end of the day, we'll be having a lot of issues when it comes to our economy. So that was done. And now in 2017, that is what is going to be happening next week, Tuesday, is to re-energize our commitments again towards this. In 2012, the commitment was to make sure that family planning access is available to about 120 million women, additional women. And now to get us again to recommit to that, to see how far have we gone? What are the strategies that we have put in place that are working? How can we ensure that we bring these strategies to scale and see that more women have access to this?
Speaking of more women and strategy now, I mean, some of the biggest issues you would face in a situation like this is our culture and religion, which are two huge factors, whether you like it or not, in Nigeria. How do you plan to go through that? I mean, we've seen issues with religion with regards to things like even immunization, There's always that conversation on the side of it. How do you tell someone who believes that children are a blessing to stop?
Yes. So what has been happening recently is that a lot of it has been coming through the economic issue. We are all in this country, and we know what we're going through. And it's not just even in Nigeria, it's globally. And everybody is seeing the economic constraints we're facing. So because of that, a lot more people, religious, traditional people, are beginning to hear. They're beginning to listen. They're beginning to see that something drastic needs to be done. A lot of advocacy has been ongoing. And I'm very glad to say that a lot of traditional religious leaders are listening. We've advocated to them, and they're telling their people that, we need to do something.
Let's go to Abuja now. Ustaz Bashir Mundi, I'm sure you've been following the conversation. Family planning is always a very interesting conversation. And like I said, religion is always an interesting part of the conversation because people believe that children are a blessing. I mean, it's very hard to come up and tell someone, hey, you can't have any more children because of whatever reasons. How do you have this conversation? Is this something you support? Is this something you think should start happening?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. Certainly, religion, Nigeria has been called, rightly or wrongly, the most religious country in the world. And so people's religious beliefs are very important to them, and they hold very strongly to them. Like with other faith communities, Muslims generally believe that having children is a blessing of God. God describes it as a blessing. And Muslims are even encouraged to have more children according to a saying of the Prophet. However, I am sure that he did not mean that we should have children that we cannot take care of. And we should not have children that are going to roam around in the streets and become miscreants. And so there is also the position of responsibility of the parents to the child. I think that it is this kind of narrative that will connect with people of faith, especially Muslims, and especially in the northern part of Nigeria, where the population is more and the rate of birth of children is more. So I think that the key thing is that the responsible parenting, and this is something that even religiously is required of Muslims. So, you know, emphasizing the responsible parenting is something that will help to moderate the quality of life of children that are born, and which I think addresses some of the concerns of this move for Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. How do you start to have this conversation, though? Because, I mean, we've seen in the past, like I said earlier, with the issue of immunization, traditional leaders in the North and even religious leaders had to step in at some point for a breakthrough to happen. How do you start to have this conversation, seeing as they'll most likely listen to people like you, as against maybe the health professionals?
Well, I think that the key stakeholders and influencers have to be involved in planning these kinds of programs or initiatives, because people listen to them and people have trust in them and people have confidence in them from a religious authoritative point of view, as well as from the point of view of seeking the best interest of the populace. So I think that planners and organizations, governmental or non-governmental, have to engage with religious leaders, and even for them to appreciate the concerns of the populace, of Muslims, for example, their concerns, and also to address the tendency or the suspicion that some initiatives or projects that come especially from outside the country are viewed, that suspicion that they're viewed with, so that there's more clarity on both sides what this program is about. Has it really been studied well? Have potential side effects that some people are having issues with, that, you know, these things have side effects, etc. Have they really been looked into? So that all these hard questions are discussed and clarified, and it is with that kind of clarity that religious leaders are able to engage the populace, engage the grassroots, and even give them some confidence and comfort about these programs. And on the flip side as well, it is these kinds of dialogues that will allow the religious leaders to speak on behalf of the people as to some concerns that people may have, whether or not they are founded.